Clayton Kershaw isn't just one of the most dominant pitchers in modern baseball. He's a symbol of what can happen when extraordinary talent is paired with humility, discipline, and an unwavering desire to do good. His story is the kind that changes how you view athletes, not as larger-than-life icons, but as people who can shape the world around them, one action at a time. Long before the bright lights of Dodger Stadium and the roar of tens of thousands of fans, there was a young boy in Highland Park, Texas, with a baseball glove, a strong left arm, and a heart full of ambition. Born on March 19, 1988, Clayton Edward Kershaw was raised by a single mother after his parents divorced when he was 10. It wasn't an easy childhood, but those early challenges helped shape his work ethic. He wasn't just playing the game for fun, he was working towards something bigger, something that didn't yet have a name but felt real every time he stepped onto the field. In high school, he was already turning heads. Coaches saw something special in him. Scouts took notice. But Clayton wasn't one to get caught up in the hype. While other teens were chasing attention, Kershaw was focused on the fundamentals, refining his curveball, studying hitters, and building the kind of mental toughness that would one day make him a legend. In 2006, the Los Angeles Dodgers selected him 7th overall in the MLB Draft. The 18-year-old was suddenly on the fast track to the major leagues. Most would have felt overwhelmed, but not Kershaw. Just 2 years later, in May of 2008, he made his MLB debut. At just 20 years old, he was already making batters look foolish with his signature curveball, what some would later call the best curve in baseball. But it wasn't just about the stats. It never was. From the beginning, Kershaw stood out not only for what he did on the field, but for how he carried himself off it. Quiet, respectful, disciplined, a throwback to an earlier generation, yet firmly grounded in the present. By 2011, he had his breakout season, a 21-5 win-loss record, a 2.28 ERA, and the National League Cy Young Award. He was just 23. Over the next decade, the accolades kept coming. 3 Cy Youngs, a National League MVP, over 2,800 strikeouts, multiple All-Star appearances, a World Series ring in 2020, a no-hitter in 2014, and still, he never changed who he was. While the media often celebrated his domination on the mound, there was something far more profound developing behind the scenes. Most fans don't know this, but throughout those peak years, Kershaw was building something far more lasting than stats. With his wife, Ellen, he co-founded Kershaw's Challenge, a foundation that would eventually raise millions of dollars for at-risk children in the U.S., the Dominican Republic, and Africa. The idea was simple: use baseball as a platform for something bigger, and they did. The couple personally traveled to Zambia multiple times, where they helped build an orphanage and supported education initiatives through partnerships with organizations like Arise Africa. These weren't PR trips, they weren't photo ops. They were boots-on-the-ground missions led by a man who could have spent his off-season on beaches or red carpets, but instead chose dusty roads and long hours of volunteer work. Back home, the Kershaws didn't stop. In Los Angeles and Dallas, their foundation helped fund after-school programs, built baseball fields, and supported shelters for homeless youth. To date, Kershaw's Challenge has raised over $12 million, changing the lives of thousands of kids who may never even watch a game of baseball. And yet, if you were to meet Kershaw in person, you might never know any of this. He doesn't boast. He doesn't post about every donation or award. In fact, one of the most telling details about his character might just be the car he drives. At the peak of his fame, when most athletes are seen pulling up in Ferraris or Lamborghinis, Clayton was still driving a 2013 Acura MDX. Why? Because for him, it wasn't about flash. It was about reliability, practicality, substance. Even today, his favorite cars remain that MDX and his Ford Escape, both symbols of how he's always stayed grounded, even as the world lifted him up. This might sound minor, but it says something important about his mindset. In a culture where image is often everything, Kershaw chose authenticity. He could afford any luxury vehicle, but he stuck with the ones that reflected who he really was: no frills, dependable, and quietly excellent. And that attitude extends to how he leads his team. Teammates often say Kershaw doesn't yell in the locker room. He doesn't try to dominate the conversation. He leads by example. One story, shared by a younger Dodgers player, tells of how Kershaw once stayed after a long practice just to help him adjust his grip on a slider. No cameras, no interviews. Just a veteran helping a rookie because it was the right thing to do. Another teammate recalled a moment after a tough loss in the playoffs. Most players were devastated. Fans were frustrated. But Kershaw quietly gathered a few younger pitchers and told them, "This isn't the end. It's part of the journey. Learn from it." That's the kind of leadership that doesn't always make headlines, but it builds dynasties. Of course, even someone like Kershaw isn't immune to pressure. For years, he faced criticism for his postseason performances. The media ran with the narrative, "Kershaw can't perform in October." It was painful and in some ways unfair. But he never fired back. He never blamed others. He just kept working, kept improving. Then, in 2020, everything changed. In the middle of a pandemic-shortened season, the Dodgers made their run, and Kershaw delivered. He pitched brilliantly in the playoffs, helping the Dodgers win their first World Series in 32 years. It was the perfect answer to years of doubt. And yet, when asked about it, he didn't gloat. Instead, he talked about how proud he was of the team, of the city, of the journey they'd taken together. This wasn't a man obsessed with proving his critics wrong. It was a man focused on proving his teammates right. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about Clayton Kershaw isn't what he's done. It's how he's done it. With humility, with purpose, with a clear understanding that fame is fleeting, but impact is eternal. He once said, "Success isn't measured by trophies, but by the impact you make when no one's watching." That quote alone could be a blueprint for how to live a meaningful life, and he lives it every day. Whether it's the millions raised through Kershaw's challenge, the lives changed in Zambia, the kids mentored in Los Angeles, or even the quiet example he sets for his own children, Kershaw's legacy is already set, and it has very little to do with baseball. This is the kind of story that sticks with you. It makes you think. It might even trigger a memory, maybe of your own childhood hero, or of someone in your life who taught you that being great doesn't mean being loud, that real strength lies in consistency, in values, and in doing the right thing, even when no one's watching. Clayton Kershaw shows us that you can be elite without being arrogant, that you can strive for greatness without stepping on others to get there, that you can win and still be kind, that you can be a global sports figure and still drive a Ford Escape. It's a reminder we all need, because in a world so often defined by noise, Kershaw's quiet example speaks volumes. So the next time you hear his name, remember, yes, he's one of the best pitchers of his generation, but more than that, he's a father, a husband, a philanthropist, a leader, and a reminder that you don't need to shout to be heard. And maybe, just maybe, that's something we can all take with us. If you enjoyed this story, and if it made you feel something, whether inspiration, admiration, or just a little more hope in the world, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There are more stories out there like Clayton Kershaw's, and we'd love to share them with you. Thanks for listening.